So feel like it's about time I kind of let you guys in on how I felt about 2024 content, kind of sort of where I intend to go next, what I intend to do moving forward. So sit back, buckle up. I got a lot of things to say. Hopefully I don't yap too long. It's essentially a yap video. There's not really gonna be any B-roll footage or anything like that. Just me letting you guys know how I actually feel. Let's start out with 2024. 2024 for content for me was pretty good in comparison to 2023. I learned a lot of things about this platform, my audience, what people like to see from me. I've learned that there are a lot of things that I'm fully capable of here on this platform, and I have held and reserved some of my content back. Not because I'm afraid to do it or anything like that. It's a matter of where I think it'll go, right? So what that entails is when I create something, obviously it's mostly fighting game related. I like to put in so many small details that I do think sometimes go to the wayside for some people. So sometimes I feel like I'm a little too detail oriented. So instead of, getting to the point like, hey, just uppercut, I try to give more nuance to it because I do feel like that isn't really expressed in the fighting game world where it's expressed in other genres, right? Which is why I'm very, very big on attention to detail. It's also why I got other jobs out there in the working world back in the 9 to 5 because they're like, we really like your attention to detail. But that's neither here nor there. I feel like that's something that's been missing in this community for a long time. So I do my best to do that for you guys so things make more sense. But with that being said, I have noticed sometimes I'll go overboard with production. And sometimes the details, like I mentioned before, go over people's head. And it's not always received well. For example, a video that I put a lot of time and love into was the Terry for Noobs for Street Fighter 6, and the results of that video were not very positive. A lot of people did appreciate it, but it wasn't up to snuff with what I thought would be probably what I would consider, personal opinion, Terry for Noobs is probably one of my all-time favorites to have made. In fact, what you guys probably don't know, really don't know, but it took me well over, a course of like, wasn't even a month. It was maybe 2 or 3 months into pre-production, getting a lot of footage ready, demoing stuff and things like that, double check, there was a lot of work that went into that video. And the reception for it wasn't very warm, and it did hurt a little bit, not gonna lie, because I'm like, dang, I really put a lot of effort into that, but I always feel like it's still a part of my portfolio. Whether or not that video gets like 3 million views or whatever isn't that big of a deal, as long as the bigger companies and the powers that be that are above the average viewership see that the effort that I put into my videos is very, very high value, then I think that's okay. Which leads me into, as you guys see on the channel, I had the ability to do some reviews for Logitech. I got a couple leverless reviews I did as well. So those things have all been great, and I've been enjoying doing those things and kind of breaking away from fighting game content. There was a point where I did have some small concerns with leaving Guilty Gear from this channel, because I know people mostly know me for Guilty Gear and not just fighting games as a whole. But I always try to express, despite being like primarily a Guilty Gear head and especially SNK head. Those are my two main, ArcSys and SNK were my two favorite fighting game developers. Those companies made some of my favorite characters, some of my favorite games. But I know there was a lot of disdain for that, and like, I wasn't as concerned as some might think for me to be, where, you just kind of up and leave, something you really love. The video I made for that, it was met with a lot of ridicule, and it's like, oh, well, you didn't care, but it's kind of a weird thing, right? Where when I was really heavy into Guilty Gear, people were like, "Oh man, you're a shill, you're just shilling for the game." It's like, nah, I just love the series. And I said in a lot of the videos I made for Guilty Gear back then. And then when I quit and just kind of put it down, it's like, oh, we always knew you couldn't hang. We knew you couldn't do this and couldn't do that. So it's just kind of like, it's weird seeing it's not really weird, I guess, but it's kind of funny when you see kind of like the shift in people's attitudes towards things when you decide that you want to put it down. And that's kind of thing, next thing I'm kind of leading into, the way people receive things nowadays in terms of content has been what probably has been holding me back. And when I say that, as in like how people consume things, how people look at content, how people view content these days has been very intriguing. There's been a lot more negativity, and that has led into a big issue for me in particular. Late in 2023, there was a lot of negativity for Street Fighter 6, a lot of negativity just moving forward in the fighting game scene. And even into 2024, like, you couldn't open Twitter or any social media where it's just like negativity just thriving beyond belief. So it made it so like, well, there's an issue people tend to have. Hey, let me try to make a video, try to solve that issue. And it just gets thrown to the wayside because they're like, well, we don't care. For example, we hate throw loops. We hate this. We hate that. We hate drive rush. We hate this. We hate that. We don't want this. We don't want that. And even when you try to show the good sides, at least in my opinion, when I was trying to show the good sides of things, it was always met with some kind of resistance or ridicule. And I'd sit there and I'd wonder to myself, why is that a thing? Like, why do people just not want someone to explain it to them and how they can get better? And what I've learned over the course of time with that and content is that it almost feels like everyone feels like they're an expert at it. So why should I listen? Especially with how ranked works. That's a whole nother story in itself, but it's just the way things are perceived. This makes it very difficult to try to fandangle my way around content and explain things, and also try to make more fun videos. Like, I had interviews with Feimada, just recently put out 2 fighting and culture videos surrounding Chanibu and my girl Vicious Shady. I think these are things that we don't get to talk about very much. It's always about how much we hate the games. And so it trickled in pretty heavily into my content at one point to where I was combating the negativity so much. I had well over 5 to 10 videos that were all just like combating negativity. And I just felt like I kept feeding into what I did not want to. I didn't want to put that energy out there, right? Like, they're putting this energy in. Let me try to combat it, But I felt like it wasn't going to do well for the channel. I didn't want my channel to be this like drama centric, this like big drama center, this drama centric channel where we're just constantly combating, the what everyone hates, right? Like I mentioned before, throw loops or whatever in Street Fighter 6 or any other fighting game. Or we hate this or we hate that. Like, I've definitely made my fair share of videos of things that I dislike and things that can get changed in a fighting game. However, I don't make it my MO to just sit there and complain about it. I've always tried to push people to understand that you can improve at these games and work harder to be better. And I guess in some cases, it'll be seen as a toxic positivity where it just cope and just cope. But it's like, well, this is the game. What do? So a lot of my content moving forward was just kind of like, well, let's find more ways to win, find more ways to beat people, find more ways to win in these scenarios, because it's very daunting in trying to make content. Even when I'm streaming, it's a constant, oh, well, my character sucks, or this sucks, or that sucks, or this doesn't work, or that doesn't work. And it's like, well, we got to try to find ways to win. Not every character is going to be perfect, etc., etc. So it brings us back to content, right? It just, seeing the negativity, it just weighed on me. So it made it very difficult to want to put out more positive things, because it just felt like no matter what, negativity just thrived. Even when I got into that little video with Mike Hollow, it was really silly, So it's like trying to be a content creator in fighting games in 2024 was rough. If all that people cared about was the negativity, the negative sides, when in reality, we're in probably the best position we've ever been in fighting games. And I say that a lot. because there's so many games to play. There's new, they announced new Evos. There's Evo France. There's going to be Evo Singapore. There's Evo Japan. There's Evo Vegas. Now there's Evo Awards that's coming up later this year. It's like there's no greater time to be a fighting game fan than right now, knowing that there's all these events, all these things that are coming about. The developers and some of their DLC practices could be up for debate, right? But that doesn't change the fact that we have so much to play, right? What makes it challenging is it just feels like nobody cares. And while I kind of figured out, well, I guess I say it this way, right? The upside to all of this, I don't want it to be all negative, right? The upside to this in 2024 is that once I kind of like pinpointed what I thought was the trepidations, I started to attack more of the common problems. Maybe I started to attack more things that were on Twitter and try to like bring a healthier discussion to things rather than like rile up people. And I noticed that that was doing a lot better for the channel. I made a challenge with myself and tried to upload daily. And this year I ended up getting 10K subs, which is great. I'm really happy to see that that was a thing for the YouTube channel, because I've been fighting here on the channel for quite a long time, trying to do so much to get the channel to that point. But I noticed that these discussion pieces started doing a lot better. And as I started putting a better spin on things, I started to see that, okay, people like to just talk about the games. Or we can finesse the negativity and turn it into like an actual discussion. And for what it's worth, pretty much every discussion piece has well over 100 comments and things of that nature. And me seeing that let me know a bit more about my audience, and or, if you will, the people who are playing fighting games right now. So it's very interesting. Very interesting. And for those of you who watch this video and have commented on those videos, thank you so much. It's good to see those discussions. I do read every single comment. I don't answer and respond to every last one of them, but I do read them and I do see y'all's points. And I think that you guys have made a lot of great points over the course of time. So I appreciate you guys for that. But moving forward, there were a lot more. I wanted to bring more fun pieces. As I mentioned before, I wanted to focus more on fighting game culture. I didn't want to lock myself into being like the Guilty Gear guy the entire way through, because I always felt like, well, when Guilty Gear dies, what's left for me, So when I moved into Street Fighter, things started to do well. Like I said, I had some issues in some places here and there with the content, as I mentioned before. But now, where I'm gonna go, well, before I get into that real fast, let me finish this part about 2024. For 2024, like I said, I just learned that these discussion pieces were like greater than what I imagined that they would be. So I kind of want to just keep bringing more fighting game discussions moving forward with the channel. I'll still do guides and things of that nature. I do know people love those things from me. Like the 4Noob series has been a very instrumental part of this channel, and I intend to keep that up. Some people want me to do 4Noobs for every character in every fighting game that's kind of out, and I'm like, that's a lot of work for me to do for just one guy, because in case you guys don't know, I have no editor. It's just me. There's no one else. I am the only person editing all these videos. So I have to be kind to myself, and give myself time and breathing room to do things. Sometimes that doesn't go over well for some time frames, if you will, because some things are time sensitive, which does lead me into this thing that I want to get into, and it is time sensitive content. It is always frustrating for me personally, because there are times where I want to just make a little bit more of a production out of what I'm doing, because that's just the kind of person that I am. Quick backstory about myself, I didn't just make videos before, like as just like a YouTuber or whatever. I was, before the pandemic, I was, a marketing lead. I also worked as a videographer and, video editor for years in the actual working world. So like my thought processes for production value are a lot higher. I'm not gonna say that the average YouTuber, because that's like unfair, right? But that's just the way that I grew into this role as a video editor, right? So my standards are a lot higher than most, and even just FGC, right? So sometimes that hinders me from making videos, or it makes me take a little bit longer. So that's where I have like that trepidation of that. But moving forward with 2025, right? Because that's what I want to get into now. 2025 in particular, I intend to still stick with this channel and do things with this channel. I do want to let you guys in on this too, because it's very important that you guys know this. Essentially, this is sort of my last foray with competitive fighting games, as in competing. There's still some things on my bucket list I'm trying to get knocked out. So for tournaments, and why you guys didn't really see me too much in tournaments, is that I don't really like online tournaments. I vouch for them. I think that they're great things, but I'm still I've been breaking my own ways and trying to get out of that funk of hating online tournaments, because sometimes there are big trepidations that I don't like. There's a lot of trepidations that I'm not happy with when I'm playing online. From the TOs DQing people and then making me play the main way despite the match arena or whatever it is, or the start.gg saying that they're disqualified. You know, it's very frustrating. Or playing someone with like the ping of like, I don't know, they're playing with horrible ping or something like that, or the connection's not very good. These things are very frustrating, but I understand at the same time. You know, I've had a lot of talks with other friends and other creators that are just like, you know, you should probably just keep trying to go through it, because it's another way to keep your name out there. And I do understand that. So I'm going to see how I feel about that moving forward. But it's been frustrating on the competitive side, because I was trying really hard for Street Fighter 6, but like the Pro Tour is so jumbled up. They only have such a big window, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm going to win CPT, not even close. But to qualify and make content from the qualification, my training regimen and stuff like that, to kind of give you guys like more in terms of like content in that regard, that's what I really wanted to do. But I know what you guys are probably saying in the comments. Well, you had online CPT. Problem with that is I was really looking forward to playing Terry in the CPT events, but he came in a little late into the online season, and that didn't really help me very much, because I wasn't really playing that much because of Tekken. I was playing a lot of Tekken, and I came back to it and practiced for at least for a good 3 weeks to a month before Evo, and had a pretty decent showing there. Unfortunately, I had controller issues, but that's a whole other ballgame. But I was really hoping for that. And I was hoping that the CPT season would start in January and go into the later half of the year, because it would give me more time to plan out where I would go next. Because I really wanted to go and travel out to go play the high level players offline. But unfortunately, with the way things were with CPT, it made it very difficult. Terry's release also difficult. So it's like, well, I'm looking for a Pro Tour that kind of sort of starts early in the year and allows me time to like practice, prep, because, you know, for playing fighting games for a very, very long time, normally what I would do prior to online was like play a lot offline, practice as much as I could, and then plan out my year. Because, you know, we would know prior to the pandemic, okay, combo breakers this year, CEOs this year at this time, Evos this year at this time. Okay, we know these events are happening. Okay, which ones can I go to? Which ones can I sacrifice? Which ones do I have to, which ones can I save up for? Which one will hurt my pockets after work, etc., etc. So that part hasn't changed too much here now. It's just for the CPT events, they're like different. So, they recently added one in Milwaukee, which was not too long after Evo, like 3 weeks or so after Evo. And then it's just super crammed. That's just the bottom line. So I'm not sure what I intend to do with Street Fighter 6 competitively. I can still make content. I can still stream it. That's not really an issue. But part of me always feels like if I'm playing something, I want to compete. And that's just the old school player in me. Don't mind me. That's just how I personally feel, which is part of this video, right? So I'm looking at it from the standpoint of the only thing I think that's left is SNK's World Championships, which I believe they're starting at the earlier parts of this year for SNK World Tour. So I'm pretty sure City of the Wolves is going to be in that, so I'll probably give that pretty much a go. And it's fine for me because it's essentially my starting point with fighting games, which was Fatal Fury 1. So I think that's not bad. Like, since I mentioned to you guys just a little while ago about, this might be my little last foray in the competitive scene, then it's okay to end where I started, So I'm gonna probably look into City of the Wolves, see what I can do with that. I'll probably try to enter some online events to keep my name relevant. I understand the relevancy is an important part of content as well. Hopefully have some cool moments, and do some damage. And I'll let you guys know also, like, it's not even about the money for the Pro Tour. It's just, as a longtime fighting game player, I have a lot of notches on my belt, if you will, or a lot of trophies and a lot of things of that nature, right? So there's just things on the bucket list I want to knock off, and participating in a Pro Tour is one of them. So actually qualifying and participating in a Pro Tour, more or less. Playing in it is not difficult, just enter. But to make it to play the best of the best is kind of like what I want to do next in my competitive journey. So that doesn't leave anything else off of the table. So take, for example, like a Say Jam Slam or something like that. I'd love to participate in that as well, going into 2025, as we're here already. So we'll see how those things kind of pan out. But that's my competitive journey. I definitely had a bit of a drought, and it was frustrating. It was pretty frustrating in 2024 for that. I'm not gonna lie. But hopefully 2025 looks bright. I'm sure some of you guys will ask me about Virtua Fighter. I do have a love for Virtua Fighter. I personally prefer Virtua Fighter over Tekken as a competitive game. You guys probably didn't know this, but I did compete in Virtua Fighter 4 for quite some time, mostly locally. But we'll see how that pans out, because I know Sega has started from what it looks like, their initiative for VF5 Revo is to do a start time of January, I think, or February. I think it either starts with Frosty Faustings this year. Yeah, I think it starts with Frosty Faustings, I think, for VF5 Revo. So if they're doing that for VF5, I can expect that for VF6, again, from January to December end time. Perfect. So we'll see how that kind of pans out. So essentially you could say, yes, you would see City of the Wolves content here. I intend to do that regardless. So no worries about that. I'll still be covering fighting games as a whole. So I'll still cover Street Fighter. I'll still cover whatever's kind of out there that's mostly popular. I'll still try to do things such as interviews with more people, cosplayers, whatever I can get my hands on, and whoever willing to give me the time of day, I'll definitely do my best to bring that to you guys, because I think a lot of people still enjoy those things. The SNK roundtable stuff with the other boys, we'll definitely try to keep that up as much as we can. I saw some other things in terms of content people like from me, which is the move list predictions. Terry's was so well received that I know people were looking for my one. Honestly speaking, why that didn't happen is because I've just been so busy with everything else under the sun and every other project that, like, sometimes I swarm myself with too many projects. I'm not gonna lie. I think it was the Terry for Noobs at the time that I was working on that really pushed me away from it. I still want to do it, but it looks like mine's coming out pretty soon, so I'm not sure how well that video will be received. But I'm not against doing it for other characters, for Street Fighter 6 and other fighting games as well. So if you guys have any ideas of characters you want to see me do that for, feel free to put in the comments below. With that being said, I do want to speak my mind on this as well. So if you made it this far into the video, I appreciate it. Again, this is like a Yap session, so if you're willing to listen, cool. If not, cool. 2025, how I intend to move is very, very different than I've done in any other year. What that entails is I'm just going to speak my mind even more freely about things, because quite frankly, I've held my tongue in a lot of ways for the sake of being, for the sake of just not upsetting people, and that doesn't mean that, like, I'm afraid to say what I want to say, but I think also I enjoy keeping my peace and enjoying the peace that I have, right? Having a good peace of mind is always great, especially for your mental health. But I do hope that there will be more opportunities for myself. What that entails is, like, one of the few things that I used to get a lot is, hey, why don't you participate in these events? Why don't they pick you for these events? And a lot of my audience on Twitch and even here on YouTube asked me that. And I'm just like, I don't know. I don't really have a good enough answer other than maybe my numbers aren't high enough. Maybe I don't have enough. I haven't invested enough clout coin, whatever the case may be. I do find it very frustrating that I get overlooked. And I want to be open and honest about it because I think it's about high time I say it and put it in video form. I understand in some cases why, but I don't want this to be seen as like, oh, you're just bitching for the sake of bitching. You're just salty because it's not you. A little bit of yes, and a little bit of no, and I mean that's only human, right? To put in a lot of work and get overlooked despite how much effort you put in over the course of your career. Now, why it's frustrating is that there's a lot of people who believe in me, and I don't like to disappoint people. That's just a me thing. Don't worry about it. That's just a me thing. I think that's also, generally speaking, human, right? But it does get frustrating when I see these events, I apply for them, and then see an entire Twitter thread that has my name across the entire thread, yet someone else gets the opportunity. I'm never upset at anyone else for getting an opportunity, mind you. That's not the case. It's just, well, maybe I need to invest in Cloud Coin a little bit more or whatnot or what have you, right? So I do want to say a big thank you for all of you who've always went into those threads, suggested me, added me, all of that. I do appreciate it. I think what I want to do this year, if those things come about, cool. If not, cool. I don't want the remainder of my time here as a content creator to be frustrated or upset at my inability to get into those things. I do have my personal feelings about them, which I do believe that those things tend to be locked up by the powers that be. I can't really, I guess you could say it's hard to infiltrate those powers that be. But I would love to be in those events. I'd love to be in those things and like showcase and like be in that same limelight as others. But I also have recognized over the course of time, I've had to build my own lane and do it my way and just let those things go. And while it may be frustrating in some cases, I've just come to accept that I have to carve my own path, my own way. And if that's what it's got to be, that's just what it's got to be. Now, I do want to talk about another thing that I have, another passion project. My other passion project right now actually is Marvel Rivals. I have made a secondary channel called ShinKensou Rivals that will facilitate that. I will be doing my best to get that channel monetized. I'll leave a link in the description below so you guys can follow it, subscribe to it, all the other good stuff. Please do, because I'm trying to get that channel to the top. Now, I want to talk about that channel and why I'm going that way and still doing fighting games. So over the course of time, a lot of people have asked me and told me so many different things about content. You're so detail oriented. Why don't you go into shooters? Why don't you go into MOBAs? Why don't you go into League of Legends or, Dota or, when I was playing Apex Legends, why don't you go into Apex? Now I did Apex for a bit, but I put it on this channel. Had I made a secondary channel, which I did make a secondary channel, but I stopped uploading to it, which was very unfortunate. But that was kind of like my filler arc to also learn shooters and be more well versed in those games and not have so what I'm looking for, not a negative view, but like I'd rather just have my eyes awoke to it and not just be like, oh, FPS games are just point and click, when that's not the case. It is the case in terms of that's what you do, but there's a lot of skill involved, just like a fighting game, right? So I didn't want to be ill-informed on the genre. So with Marvel Rivals, that game has literally taken me by storm, and it kind of fuels, not even kind of, it actually fuels my competitive drive to constantly improve and get better. So I was just smitten by the game and just said, all right, screw it. I'll make a channel because I don't want to mix Marvel Rivals with fighting games. I do believe there could be some overlap, but specifically with the Marvel vs. Capcom games. But for like Street Fighter, Fatal Fury, there's no way that's going to work. So the secondary channel was, the only logical choice. Again, this doesn't mean I'm done with fighting games, but when you get told so much that like your talents could be used elsewhere, they'll probably be more appreciated in another genre. You know, these games have larger audiences and stuff like that. I've heard that over the years, especially throughout the pandemic, all the way up until now, to the point to where I have people telling me, hey, maybe your fighting game, journey could probably be better in Japan. Maybe you should move there. It's so much more popular. There's a bigger audience for it out there. There's more people, there's more players who play those games. In America, it's a lot harder, which it is true. There's a lot of truth to that. I've heard that literally since the start of Street Fighter 6, pretty much, and how Japan's been receiving the game. I've definitely been told that countless times. Just maybe you might want to consider moving. It has something. It has definitely been something that has been on my mind. But I think with Marvel Rivals, it's kind of reinvigorated my ability to kind of kick it here and just kind of stay. I do have a really good situation here for myself with content and my ability to make content here. So if I was to move, that does kind of change my circumstances a little bit. So I wouldn't move in the immediate, mind you, even if I was to do fighting game content in Japan. But I do see that could be a very good angle for me for fighting games. So I think it'd be pretty cool. But for now, since I've been admitted into the Marvel Rivals partner program, and it's a great program, mind you, I just feel like it's high time to just try something new and not have it mix with the fighting games. For what it's worth, I've literally played this game on stream a minimum of 10 hours a day. Like, these are legit 10-hour streams plus. I think the longest stream I went for Rivals was probably like 16 hours or so. So I'm playing pretty heavily, getting better at the game. So I want to be able to kind of bring more content to that audience and kind of facilitate something new. Again, I'm going to keep stressing it. I'm not quitting fighting games. I'm not giving up. It just means I just want to try something new, go into a new venture and see how this pans out. Because I now know more about YouTube than I did before. And I think with the knowledge I have now, I could probably make that channel probably even bigger than this one, to be honest with you, because of the size of the audience. And that's just realistically speaking. But my love for fighting games and passion for fighting games will always remain on this channel. There's a lot of history here. There's a lot of love that I still have for this genre that will never go away. But I do feel like it's time to try something new. And when I say I guess you could say essentially retired from fighting games or put down my competitive hat, then yes, I'd still make content. For those that are wondering, would I still make content for fighting games? I would. But I think my competitive itch would probably be scratched way more on Marvel Rivals side. So I'd probably end up there more so than not. But I'm going to do my best to distribute equal time. It's going to be hard, I'm not going to lie, especially as only one guy. One man army. I'm a one-man band right now. Eventually I'll try to see if I can get an editor to try to help me out. So if you guys know anybody, feel free to let me know. But I kind of already have one in mind anyway. Just for what it's worth, Ghost from Third Strike has helped me out quite a bit in the past. So more than likely he would be my editor. But that's neither here nor there. I'm just put it out there in the ether, But I'm always open to suggestions. But splitting my time between two channels is going to be rough. I admit it, but I wouldn't have it any other way, especially with the way my current situation is. So to kind of round out this yapping session here is that 2025, my goal is to be strong in both Marvel Rivals and City of the Wolves. I will still be covering fighting games up until whenever. When City of the Wolves comes out, I'm going to probably ramp it even more into gear, because right now it's kind of like pre-planning stages for City of the Wolves and things I intend to do. But in the meantime, whatever announcements come up, reactions, I'll stick to that. But I think it's probably going to be a 60-40 for the Marvel Rivals channel right now, because I need to build that up. So I'll probably be there a little bit more than here. But again, doesn't mean I don't care about the channel. I don't still want to give this channel attention and or love. Just know that when City of the Wolves comes out, I'll be back at this, and it'll probably be we'll go 50-50. Right now, I think a 60-40, roughly 70-30 would probably be more ideal right now to build up that channel to get that where it needs to be. And yeah, we'll keep growing from here. I still have goals of getting this channel to 100K if at all possible. Will I achieve that? I'm not sure. I'd like to. More goals for this year is I definitely want to be I want to knock out things on my bucket list for City of the Wolves. So hopefully I can get into SNK World Tour, and I would love to document that journey for you guys so you guys can see like what it took for me to get there. Who knows? Maybe I'll win. Shanghai is going to be very difficult to beat. I'm just saying that because I'm pretty sure Shanghai is going to make it. So Asia is very strong at SNK games. But who knows? Maybe this might be a different era, you know. But I intend to be one of the top creators for Fatal Fury when it comes out. The same love and care that I had for Guilty Gear, you'll see it for Fatal Fury. Trust me. I really mean it when I say I grew up on Fatal Fury. Like, you guys have no idea how much time I spent on those games. You know, almost on par with Guilty Gear. But that will be the journey moving forward. The focus for my main competitive game will most likely be City of the Wolves. You're probably going to ask about 2XKO. I'll probably cover it, but we'll see about the competitive journey. So yeah, it's mostly going to be City of the Wolves and Marvel Rivals. Even on Twitch, you'll most likely see that. We'll play some RPGs, of course, naturally, but yeah, that's essentially it. I think that about rounds it out. I think that does it. Yeah. Yeah, I just want to keep building a new lane for myself. I want more opportunities. At the end of the day, right, to just round out Avengers Endgame, I want more opportunities for myself. I'm not going to take another year of not gaining opportunities for myself because I decided to stay here, right? To stay just in the fighting game niche. I think that my analytical eye and attention to detail can be facilitated in another genre, and that's Rivals, and we're going to see how far that goes. So if you stuck with me to the end of this video, I know it was a big yapping session. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Trust me, I do. Thank you guys all these years for supporting me. Even the new people, I appreciate it a ton. And here's to 2025. Gonna make this one of the greatest years ever. And hopefully I'll get what I want with City of the Wolves. So with that being said, I'm gonna get up out of here. Catch you guys in the next video. Peace.